Thanks everyone for being in attendance this morning. My name is Helen Morales and I manage the Foreclosure Registry unit for the Los Angeles Housing Community and Investment Department. And I want to thank everybody who's here present today in our office and those who are on the webinar. Just as a point of reference, we will be asking for questions. You can raise your hand in the option where it allows you to raise your hand in the webinar, and you can provide questions. We will be logging those and stopping as we go forward. And we're going to do it in a group of sessions. For example, we'll deal with registration, and we'll deal with inspection, and we'll deal with penalty fees in different areas today so that we cover everything. So I want to thank everyone who is in attendance again, and we will get started. So again, the Foreclosure Registry Ordinance, I'm going to actually allow Elizabeth Treviso, who many of you have probably spoken with, and she's going to give us a brief history of the ordinance and how we log in and do registration and everything good for Foreclosure Registry. So thank you, Elizabeth.
You're welcome. Good morning, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Treviso. I'm going to go over some of the requirements and the intent of this program. Effectively, July 8th of 2010, City Council passed the Foreclosure Registry Program Ordinance in response to the foreclosure crisis. This established three things. It established a residential property registration program, a mechanism to protect residential neighborhoods on properties subject to a foreclosure sale. On November 12, 2014, the City Council passed an amendment to our original ordinance in response to the foreclosure crisis. These amendments were proactive inspections, monthly lender inspections, and requirement to register properties. I will go into detail a little later concerning these three different amendments. Who is required to register? So a property in foreclosure is defined as any property upon which a notice of default has been issued by a lender, mortgagee, or beneficiary of any deed of trust. So any beneficiary or trustee who holds or has an interest in the deed of property in foreclosure is required to register a property. Not only properties in foreclosure, but also properties that have been foreclosed and they're considered now REO, real estate owned, are also required to register. So the registration requirements are that it requires to all residential properties within the City of Los Angeles. As I mentioned, whenever there's a notice of default, you have 30 days from that date to register the property. Also, the bank-owned properties. These properties can be either vacant or occupied. A lot of people are under the impression that this ordinance only applies to vacant properties. It applies to both, all residential, vacant, and occupied properties. There is an annual registration fee in the amount of $155.
I want to just add in one thing for everyone here. We often get phone calls and they'll say, well, the city is Van Nuys, or the city is Sherman Oaks. It is not the City of Los Angeles. I just want to clarify that historically the City of Los Angeles was composed up of neighborhoods. Those are actually neighborhoods. They're not cities. And if you go back to even your deed of trust, most often I point out to individuals that the deed of trust will say, for example, City of Los Angeles in paren, Beverly Hills area neighborhood. And so even within the City of Beverly Hills, for example, there's nooks and crannies that appear to be Beverly Hills and may even have Beverly Hills in their address, but it's actually City of Los Angeles. So I want to caution everybody that when you're looking and you're going on to register these properties, go in and put in the APN. If it is not subject to the ordinance, then it will tell you it's not subject to the ordinance. And moreover, you can always contact us at our hotline. We'll have our contact information at the end of this, and we can tell you whether or not it is. Another thing to do is Google, for example, Sherman Oaks. You will see that it is defined as, in Wikipedia, as a neighborhood within the City of Los Angeles. So please be very cautious and make certain that when you're registering these, to contact us to make sure that you're in compliance.
Okay, so registration is required annually. It's good. It's valid for 1 calendar year, regardless. It's not 1 year from the date that you register the property, but it's one per calendar year. So if you register property, say in February, you are required to, it'll just be good for that year of February 2017, for instance. Re-registrations are due every January 1st of each year and must be completed before January 31st. So if you registered your property, say this current year, 2017, and it remains subject to the ordinance in 2018, you are required to re-register that property come January 1st of 2018. When there's multiple beneficiaries or trustees, the beneficiary who first causes a notice of default for a security must be recorded, the first one shall be responsible for the registration.
So in other words, what we're saying is that, let's say there's 2 notices of default, a first and a second, and the first actually records a notice of default in January 20th, 2017, and the second records a notice of default in March of 2017. So it would be the first one who records that notice of default. Now, you can always go in and be added as a supplemental registrant, and so we always encourage mortgagors, if there's a first and a second issue, that to actually go on, and you won't be charged a fee because the first would be required to make that fee, but you can be added on so that you can receive all the notices and all information that you might want to receive regarding this property.
So the ordinance requires that you register the property with the Los Angeles Housing and Community Investment Department, and you must provide the following information. You must provide us with a beneficiary or trustee contact information. You must provide us with the contact person who is directly responsible for the property. Now, this person must be within a 100-mile radius of the property. You need to provide us with an address. P.O. boxes are not acceptable. Also, you must provide us with the phone number of the responsible person. If it's an 800 number, you must provide us with the direct extension. There's often times where we call an 800 number. Say, for instance, it's a beneficiary phone number, and you call an 800 number and they ask for a loan amount. They ask for a loan account or account number. We don't have that information. Also, you need to provide us with the occupancy status of the property, whether it's vacant or it's occupied. The responsible person must be empowered to comply with code enforcement orders, provide trespass authorization, conduct monthly inspections, and also accept rental payments from tenants.
Okay, I just want to add in, I know I spoke to someone yesterday, who I believe she is online here today, regarding the trespass authorization. The trespass authorization is actually a tool that you can utilize with us to help you maintain that property in order. What it does is you attest that the property is vacant. You record that with us and with the local Los Angeles Police Department. And what will happen is they will have that on file so that if somebody gets reoccupied or somebody's there, which often happens, then they can actually remove them because you certified that that property was vacant. So it's very important to utilize this form to help with the process that we would like to help you with, is to maintain these properties in a blight-free condition, to help increase the value of the property as well, because that goes hand in hand, and to ensure that our constituencies and our communities are free from the blight and the blighted conditions that occur subsequent, such as crime. So please utilize that form. If you have any questions, we can post that form online after this as well. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is bankruptcies. So the ordinance requires that you inform us if there's a bankruptcy that's on file. And this is really important because if we have a record that there is an active bankruptcy on file, and more importantly, that there is a stay in effect relative to that property, that's what we're looking at. We're looking to make certain that there is a stay in effect on that property. And the reason we're looking to see that is because we know that registration requirements, including inspection requirements, cannot be conducted when there is a stay in effect. So what we usually request is a recent case docket, and what I'm going to be looking for, and our staff are trained to look for, is to make sure that there's no stay. If there was, that there was a stay in effect, and to make sure that there was no order on relief from stay, or that the lender moved forward and obtained order for relief from stay. So as soon as an order of relief from stay is entered on a bankruptcy case, and the lender is then has the ability to move forward on it, all the requirements are under the ordinance are required. It's just when the stay is in effect, obviously, that we are not going to hold the obligations of the ordinance relative to, for example, inspection and registration, as long as the property is in foreclosure. So if it happens midway, obviously you come in and you register the property. But once the registration is valid and you're moving forward and you do have a stay in effect against that property, then please provide us with that information. And you can do that by going through and downloading that information, or contacting us at our hotline, so that you can send that to us by email, and we will do the research on it and confirm the requirements and eligibility under that property.
So the ordinance requires that that you are to report within 10 days of any change to the information that you have provided at the time of registration. For instance, any of the registration information, the status of the property, if it's gone from NOD to REO, if there's been a change in property servicer or management company, if there's been a change in occupancy status and bank owned. For instance, if it went from occupied to vacant, or vice versa, vacant to occupied. Any changes affecting the ownership, changes affecting the affecting the condition of the property. Also, within 10 days, if the property is no longer in foreclosure, you must submit a deregistration request, and we will only review it or accept it if you provided LA County recorded documents such as a notice of rescission, a sale to a third party, a loan modification, or a full reconveyance.
Okay, I'm going to go and answer a question that we've received because it's relative to the bankruptcy, and it's right now in, we're discussing these issues. So the question is if the property is in bankruptcy, so the NOD cannot be recorded, do we need to report this to you? If the NOD is not recorded, then you don't need us to, because it doesn't come onto our target until the NOD is recorded. To err on the side of caution, though, if you would like to inform us of that, then that would be great, and we will take note of that in our database. However, what actually ties us into the property is the recording of a notice of default. So if you have not recorded the notice of default yet, then there is no requirement to do so. If you want to do it to err on the side of caution, that's fine.
Now, as I mentioned, the ordinance requires that if there's been any change to the status of the foreclosure, such as the property is no longer in foreclosure, you must come onto our online system and indicate or request a deregistration. We will only accept, or we will only approve your deregistration if you provide us with a recorded county notice of rescission, or if there's been a sale to a third party, for instance, a trustee's deed upon sale or a grant deed, anything that shows that the sale actually took place.
And the trustee's deed upon sale will need to evidence a sale to a third party, not that it's going back to the beneficiary.
Also, if there's been a full reconveyance, if the loan has been paid off, you must also submit your deregistration and provide us with a recorded copy of that document. Please note that a change in servicer is not a valid reason for deregistration. Because it's gone from one servicer to another, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's no longer in foreclosure and it's not subject to the ordinance. Therefore, do not come and request a deregistration if there's been a change in servicer. Now, in the main menu of our online registration, for those that have registered in the past, you will see a link there where you can click and inform us that there's been a change in servicer rather than requesting a deregistration.
Okay, so we do have somebody, Diane is online here and she's out of questions. So we're going to unmute you, Diane, so that you can ask your question. So can you ask your question for us all today?
Yes, I will. Thank you. And you actually answered my question, Helen. My question was exactly as you stated. Once the property has been registered by, the prior servicer, and it does change, our issue has been that servicer who started the process had the, registration type, had the registration, attached to their account. So now I think you answered my question, and thank you for that, which is when the property registration is changed, then does the old servicer go in and change it and put the information for the new servicer, or does the new servicer, because we wouldn't as the new servicer, have the ability to go in and find that property if it was registered to somebody else's account?
Yes, so you can do both. So you can go in if you have that information of the new servicer, you can come in and provide us that information and tell us that you're no longer responsible, and here's the new servicer. There's an option in the system to do that. Additionally, when the new servicer comes in, the new servicer can come in and say, I am now responsible. So both things can happen.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think that would be, and we just locate that by searching it through the APN number?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. That helps a lot. I think that might have been an issue in the past, but thank you very much.
Okay. No. All right, thank you. We're going to mute you again one more time, and then we're going to go forward. But going forward, if you haven't done this process before, you can actually raise your hand, and we can unmute you, and you can ask a question. Going forward, you can also input your question. So either way, we really would like to have this continued conversation. So we're going to go ahead and go forward with the presentation list.
So for those of you who have created an online account, this is how actually our main menu, our main screen looks like. You have various options. There's a menu on top and there's a menu in the bottom. You can view your payments, you can register properties, you can manage your properties that you already have registered. You can pull up your list of inspections, properties that require inspection. You can add a lender, you can remove a lender, or you can, down at the bottom where it says for change in responsible party, if there's been a change in servicer, this is where you would indicate it rather than submitting a deregistration request.
And Diane, this is where you would be making that information and putting in there that we're no longer the responsible party and that here is the new responsible party, if you have that information.
Okay, so this is when you go in to register a property. This is the very first screen that you see. You have to enter the assessor parcel number. You have to indicate whether this property is vacant or occupied. Also the foreclosure status, whether it's an NOD or REO. You need to indicate if this property is a government-sponsored enterprise, such as Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. You indicate yes or no. So then you go on to the very bottom and go to the next step. The next screen is where you're going to enter the lender contact information. Here you provide us with the company, the lender, the contact person from the lending company, the email address, and all the rest of the contact information. Now, please be aware that there's some registrations that we have reviewed, and you provide us with the correct lender name. However, if you're only a registrant and you provide us with your contact information, that is not very helpful to us. So you must submit, or you must input the lender name in addition to all the contact information relevant to that lender. The next screen looks similar to the previous one, but here you will be entering the management company. And pretty much it's the same thing. You'll enter the management company name, the contact person from that company, email address, phone number, mailing address. Please be aware, or as mentioned before, we do not accept P.O. boxes. And this is the final screen. It'll give you, you can register up to 10 properties at one time, so it'll list all the properties that you have. You have the option of deleting one if you realize that you didn't want to registered one, or you accidentally registered it. It'll give you, at the very bottom, it'll tell you if there's outstanding fees, what the amount of the outstanding fees are. And then at the very bottom, it'll give you the total amount that is due.
We do have a question. I think I'm going to answer it briefly as I can. The question from, I believe it is Lorenza, is if you fail to register a property on time and receive a penalty fee, is there any way the fees can be reduced? I'm sorry, I can't see it. It's pretty tiny over there. We do have an appeal process, and we do look at various items. What we look at under the penalty fees is whether or not we can reduce the fees because, for example, there was an NOR that was recorded, there was a sale to a third party, or a loan modification recorded. So what we can do is we can go back to that recorded date and adjust the fees to that recorded date. That is our limitations with the ordinance with City Council on any and all penalty fees. So the other item actually is bankruptcy. You're required to inform us of bankruptcy beforehand, but let's say for whatever reason you didn't. We will go back and look and evaluate whether there was a stay in effect, look at that stay period, and reduce those fees for that stay period. So those are the items and reasons that we can do and do make adjustments on penalty fees.
Okay, going back to our registration process. Now, this is the final screen. You have two different payment options. You could either pay by e-check or credit card. We recently added a new feature. Just to explain, there's some registrations that are completed by a third party. It's not a lender, it's not a management company. So when you create your account, you provide as a registrant, you provide your contact information, which is not included in the registration screens that I just showed you a few minutes ago. So if you enter that information and you want to go back and change it, you can click at the very top where you see the arrow, and you click on, it says change or edit profile. So you will have the ability to update your email address, to update your contact information. So say, for instance, you're registering properties on behalf of one particular bank. You created the account, but now you're not there at the company, so whoever takes over and takes over the registrations must come and update this contact information so that they're able to use your account.
I just want to go back. Lorenza asked another question. She said that she had forgotten to state that it was an REO property. So even on REO properties, if, for example, sometimes it may accrue penalty fees past the sale date because we don't get that information, if you provide that information, it's still applicable, but those are the same, it's the same terms. I know an NOR wouldn't be, or a loan modification wouldn't be relevant, but a sale to third party would probably be the only relevant fact pattern, or in that case, and obviously bankruptcy wouldn't be relevant either.
So if there's been any changes, as mentioned before, to any of the information that you provided, to be able to come in and deregister the property or update any of the contact information, this is where you would go from the main menu where it says Manage Registered Property / deregistration request. You go to this screen, and this is where you would select the APN number or you would enter the address. So here you can do two different things from this link right here. So you could either update the property status or you can request a deregistration. So you click on there and it'll take you to this next screen. If you want to change the foreclosure status, this is where you would indicate it. If you want to change it, if it was NOD, now you want to report that it's gone as an REO, or if the occupancy changes from vacant to occupied. Please note that if it does change from NOD to REO, there is a possibility that a proactive inspection fee applies. If the REO is a single-family dwelling or a multi-family vacant, then a 356 fee will apply, and once you hit update, it'll let you know there, and it'll request you or will ask you to pay for this fee. Going back to this, so we already went through the update property status screen. We go to the same link to request the deregistration. So the table looks very similar. So when you want to submit a deregistration request, this is where you go. You select the reason for the deregistration request. There's a pull-down menu. And you will be required to upload a file here. So if you're requesting a deregistration based on a notice of rescission that was recorded, please upload the recorded notice of rescission through here. And then you just submit the deregistration. That will go to a queue where staff will review it. And if they determine that this notice of rescission does cancel the outstanding notice of default, we will approve it. You'll receive an email stating that your request was approved, or if we determine that the documents that you submitted do not meet the requirements, such as they're not recorded, or it's a notice of rescission or other documents that are not related to this property, we will deny it. You will also get a denial email. Now I'm going to, I'm sorry. Can you go back to that?
Oh, please understand that oftentimes we'll get uploaded information because in order to make a deregistration request, you have to upload a document. But please be careful in what you're uploading because we look at that. And oftentimes we'll get a document that's just a piece of paper that says, no longer servicer or something like that. We're going to deny that right away. And so please understand that we evaluate each and every one of these deregistrations. What we're looking for is recorded documentation because we have to have a recorded copy. That gets uploaded to our system and we authorize that. So please make sure that you're obtaining a recorded document.
Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Benny Perez. I'm the inspector for the Foreclosure Registry, Housing and Community Investment Department. I'm going to go over the foreclosure inspections, what's required, and who's required to do the inspections. The requirements, there's a monthly inspection required by the beneficiary or trustee. There's also proactive inspection requirements through the Building and Safety and also our Housing and Community Investment Department. The beneficiary and trustee monthly inspection requirements are all properties with NODs or REO status. Monthly inspections by the beneficiary or trustee. They have to report monthly online to the Housing Department. They must report the date of inspection, inspection of the contact information, condition of the property, upload at least one photo of a street view of the property at the time of inspection, and also report the occupancy status.
Benny, what are you looking for when you're looking for the picture? What do you want on the picture?
The picture should depict the state of the property, make sure that it's not in any blight conditions. So we're looking for just the clearest picture that you can upload that'll show that there's no violations, or if there is violations, it'll also depict the violations such as trash and debris, fences down, broken windows, overgrown vegetation. The proactive inspection requirements, Building and Safety actually does the proactive inspections, and all REO single-family dwellings and vacant multifamilies. There is a $356 proactive inspection fee that will be paid at the time of re-registration, or at the time the property changes from NOD to REO status. LADBS code inspectors will conduct an exterior inspection, so it's going to be just kind of the same inspection, just from the exterior. The housing department, where our jurisdiction is all REO multifamily occupied properties. Penalty fees for failure to pay proactive fees is the same penalty, which is $250 penalty fee that will be accrued daily. Property shall be maintained in accordance with the code requirements of the Los Angeles Municipal Code 91-8104. All properties shall comply with all requirements under the Article 1, Division 89 of the Los Angeles Municipal Code. Utilities, beneficiary trustees shall ensure that utility services are not terminated if the property is lawfully occupied. Registrants have the ability to designate an inspector to submit monthly inspection reports, to submit a report. Okay, I'm going to pass it over to Elizabeth. She will continue with the presentation.
Okay, so I'm going to go over this section here. So oftentimes the registrants are there's been times where the lender hires a registrant, a third-party company, to just register the property. They don't have the responsibility, or they haven't been assigned to inspect these properties. The lender has actually contracted an inspector or a company or a preservation company to do the inspections. Because when you register a property, you're the only user, or you're the only entity that has access to that registration or to the inspection list of properties. So in order for a third party to come in and report an inspection on a property that they never registered, now they have the ability to create an inspector account, and the person or the company that registered the property must designate them as an inspector so that they can come in and inspect the properties for that particular property. So when they create the account, they have to identify themselves as an inspector, because there is two different types of accounts. We have an account for registrant and we have an account for inspector. So once they create the account online, they indicate their inspector. I'll show you the screen in a few minutes. The inspector is to then notify the registrant, whoever registered the property, provide them with their user ID so that they can associate them to their account. The inspector will then select the registrant that he is reporting for. So it pretty much, when they go in and create an account, it pretty much looks like just like the registrant account. So here you see the very first, you have to select your role. So the very first one is lender/mortgage service provider. If you're going to register properties, then this is where you indicate, and this is the type of account that you have to create. Now, if you're just an inspector that's going to inspect on behalf of on behalf of a lender or just a regular registrant that has registered the property, you indicate lender inspector, you fill out your name, your phone number, which company you're with, and all your contact information. Once you create this, and you have provided your user ID to the registrant, then the registrant must go here to the main menu, and they can either add or remove an inspector. So this is where you would add the user ID that the inspector has provided, and then you just add them as an inspector. Now, once the inspector comes in, they have to indicate to the name of the lender as to for whom they're submitting inspections. So this is how the monthly inspection list looks. So any property that you registered in your account or any property that the inspector has in their inspection account that they associated themselves with will come up on this list. The blue indicates that this property requires inspection report. The green indicates that there has been a report submitted for this property, and you do have the ability to edit. This is what the monthly inspection report looks like. So when you come in here, you must report the date of inspection, not the date that you came in to submit the inspection report, but the date that you were actually out there at the property conducting the inspection. You need to provide us with the company name. You need to put in the first and last name of the person that actually went and did the inspection. We don't want to see a company name split up into two, because we need an actual person's name. We also need a contact phone number for this inspector and an email. Now, this contact information is very important, because if our inspector, our HCIDLA inspector, or our building and safety inspectors need to contact the inspector regarding the inspection that they submitted, it's very important that we have a direct contact person in the event that they do have questions. Now, every time you submit a monthly inspection, you are to indicate if the property is occupied. Below are the conditions that you're reporting on. For instance, you need to report whether there's building maintenance needed, if the fences are deteriorating, if it's unsafe, guardrails, handrails missing, the premises is not maintained in a safe and sanitary condition, overgrown vegetation, broken windows, vacant units, and unsanitary and unclean conditions. So you must report this every single month. In addition to that, you are required to submit at least one photo of the exterior of the property, as mentioned by Benny, the inspector. So if you don't upload a picture, it will not allow you to submit the monthly inspection. Please be certain to submit a clear picture. We've gotten some pictures that are not an actual, a Google Maps picture, or, we've gotten pictures of the Grand Canyon. We've gotten pictures that are not relevant to the inspection of this property. Those will be considered as violations, because you are not in compliance, and since you haven't submitted the required picture.
I also want to point out that form is available electronically. So when they go in and they go online, they can use their phones or their tablet or whatever they're at site, and they can actually take a picture with their instrument, whether it be a phone or a tablet or whatever they have out there, and actually upload it and do all this at site and get it done quickly. So, I do know that a lot of inspectors do that.
So the ordinance states that if you fail to comply or you fail to fulfill or satisfy some of the requirements after we issued a 30-day notice for some of the following violations: for failure to comply with the registration requirements within 30 days of filing the NOD, for failure to re-register the property by January 31st if it remains subject to the ordinance, failure to pay proactive inspection fee at the time the property status is changed from REO, on the registry or failure to satisfy the monthly inspection and reporting requirements. Now, there is, when we do issue the 30-day notice, you have 30 days to comply. If by day 31 you haven't complied, our system will automatically start generating or accruing a $250 per day penalty fee, which can add up to $100,000 per notice.
And I think I want to impress upon the importance that this ordinance was created by City Council to reduce blight in our communities and to ensure that our communities remain blight-free and the associated issues that come with blight, for example, crime and cost to services, city services like fire department, LAPD, and whatnot. And so our agency is a multi-agency collaboration. We work with the City Attorney's Neighborhood Prosecutor's Office, with the Environmental Justice Office, with Department of Building and Safety, Department of Water Power, Mental Health, Animal Services, Sanitation, LAPD, LA Fire Department, and obviously the community involvement when we get complaints that we have properties that are blighted and creating chaos in our neighborhoods. So I want to impress upon the fact that if you have a property that you are having problems with, to please contact us. There may be some assistance that we may be able to lend. And also to utilize the trespass authorization form. If you have acquired a property, the property is REO status, the property is vacant, or the property is vacant and you'll attest to its vacancy regardless of the REO status, we would like to have that information. We'd like to have that form on file. We would like to work in a collaborative nature with lenders, realtors, and anybody who's associated with these properties, because there have been a number of properties that have actually been very problematic and have created chaos in our neighborhoods. And so I want to show you some of those just to be an example for everyone. But this is a property where our inspector worked collaboratively with Department of Building and Safety, LAPD, Neighborhood Prosecutor's Office to eradicate all of this blight on this property. This was a property that was across the street from a school. We had 4 homicides. 4 homicides in the neighborhood. In the neighborhood as a result of this property. We had gang activity, we had drug dealings, we had prostitution at this location. So it's really important that we work collaboratively with you, and in this process we did work collaboratively with the lending institution to get this property vacated and get it sold. I believe it was actually ultimately bulldozed by the new owner. And this is actually the same property, the rear of that same property. So you can see how this could create a problem, how none of us want to be living next door to this property or have to walk our kids across the street to the school with this property. It's very problematic. This is one of our success stories as well, also down the street from a school, where we had somebody who was actually living on the roof. I don't know if you can see that thing on the roof, but somebody was living on the roof on that property. We ultimately worked with the lending institution, and you can see it was sold to a family afterwards, and now they're occupying the property. This is some of the same pictures of that same property here, the before and the after. We had to call Department of Sanitation out to clean up this property. So it actually does bear a lot of costs on the city in making sure that we ensure that these properties are kept in a blight-free condition. This is that same property afterwards that we were able to go in and take some photos of. But this was a collaborative effort with the lending institution to do that. And then this is another case, another example of a property that was, we had to get Department of Sanitation on this one because they actually dumped the stuff, and this was a realtor, on the outside. We don't want that to happen. We want you to clean it up, just get it cleaned up, and this was the ultimate result of this property and our collaborative efforts. And so, again, whatever, do we have any more? Is this it? Okay. So I want to touch on one other thing regarding the foreclosure registry. So there is a foreclosure moratorium that walks hand in hand with the foreclosure registry, and the foreclosure moratorium came before the foreclosure registry, basically saying that if the property is for rent, irregardless of whether it is under the same conditions as the rent stabilization ordinance, it still gets all the provisions of the rent stabilization ordinance as long as it's in the city of Los Angeles. And so that was effective December 17, 2008, because what we had found occurring is that we had a lot of cash for keys going on, where they would come in and they were legal renters in the property, and the real estate would come and say, here's $500, you have to come out tomorrow because it's foreclosed. Foreclosure is not a reason for eviction in the city of Los Angeles, irregardless of its rent stabilization or if it is a single-family dwelling that is not under the rent stabilization. So that's really important that everyone understand that there are still provisions under the rent stabilization ordinance. For example, if you want to remove those tenants, that they also qualify for relocation benefits, but more importantly, that they are allowed to remain in that property and pay rent in that property as long as the property is in the foreclosure process, irregardless of the fact that it is under the rent stabilization ordinance. The properties under the rent stabilization ordinance are normally those properties that are built before October 1st, 1978 and have 2 or more units on the lot, or acting as 2 or more units on the lot. But under this foreclosure registry moratorium, we were provided with the opportunities to provide all of the protections under the rent stabilization ordinance for even single-family dwellings that are being rented out as well. So I just want you to be aware of that provision is there. And we will, this is again the rent stabilization ordinance. This is our contact information. We do have another open data online. This is the mayor's open data and the controller's office open data. So all of our data goes into this website if you would like to obtain that information. But if you would like to register our properties, that would be at hcidlabill.lacity.org foreclosure. Mail-in registration is not acceptable. All registrations are required to be online. So that's really important that everyone understand that. We have received in the past registrations in the mail, and we'll just mail them back to you. So it's important, especially if you're running across a deadline of getting that property registered timely. Our goal is to obtain the registration contact information. It is not to accrue a penalty fee. However, the ordinance needs to be complied with, and we as public administrators enforce those ordinances. And so City Council tasks us to enforce the ordinance, and the enforcement mechanism here is the daily $250 penalty fee. So we're seeing a 98% compliance rate, which is great, but that 2% equates to approximately 1,500 to 2,000 properties a year, and that's huge. And so we're really wanting to get compliance 100%. Additionally, our inspections have went from 20 to 30%, and now it's edging up to a 40% compliance rate. We really want to get that compliance rate up. I think we're up to 60% now, but we'd really like to get that compliance rate up. So the monthly inspections, if you have any questions, please contact us at our hotline, which is listed here, 213-808-8858, and we will answer any and all questions that you may have relative to this ordinance. So I just kind of want to open it up. I know we've been talking about a lot of things here, but if anybody else has any further questions, either here at our location, because we do have one person who came in, but we do have many attendees online. So if anybody has any questions, you can actually put in a question, or you can raise your hand, and either online or here, and we can answer any questions that you may have.
I'll wait till afterwards.
Oh, okay. Well, but it might be opportunity for everyone else.
I know who he is. He calls me all the time, and sometimes I'm stuck. Like some of the banks and servicing companies use me all the time. I'm Eddie Zubia, and so like I'm stuck. Like most of my things are online portals, and I never speak to anybody. Like I can't ever speak to anybody at Bank of America. Then he's calling me and he's telling me, hey, this property at Portola 90032, and he called me about another one I call my client, I put up on my time, nobody ever responds to me. They just use my name, they put me on there, and then I'm just kind of stuck. So I just, I do whatever I can to fulfill my obligations, and then I'm just stuck.
Yeah, and that's, okay, so I don't know if everybody heard that, but I'm going to repeat it. We do have a realtor, Ed Zubier, here, who actually registers quite a few of our properties. And he's the contact person, and I know our inspector, Benny Perez, contacts him often to ask questions. Our big concern is the same thing that Edward is actually saying here. What he's saying is that I can't get a hold of the banks. Now, remember, when you're to put that clearly identifiable person that can do something within 100 miles of that property, that's what we want. But we're finding that our properties that are like those properties, those blighted properties, it was really an effort to get a hold of somebody to make that progress come forward. And so I really impress upon the banks and the lending institutions, if any of you all are online, to please understand that we do want a contact person, and that contact person that's local should be able to reach out to that lending institution or trustee, beneficiary, to make those decisions necessary to comply with our ordinance. So I ask you all to take that into consideration. If there's some kind of new processes you have to establish, we'll help you work through that if that's something we can do. But we really want to have that clearly identifiable person, because as Edward just stated, it's no good if we have that person who says, okay, I'm here, I know that's a problem, but I'm not getting any response from my client. And so that's a concern that we have, and that's a valid concern that actually our inspectors deal with on a daily basis. So lending institutions, I know I can see some names here that I'm familiar with. Please figure out something to make that happen, because we really want to make that happen. And if there's a separate conversation that we need to have, we can do that. But I really impress upon being able to do that as well. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Okay, so we have a few more questions here. How will a new service be aware of a registration filed under another service's login?
How will an...
Okay. Okay, so the real question is that when you come in to register, if you're a new servicer, you will see that the property has already been registered by somebody else. You can be added in by a new registration. The best way to do it is to contact our hotline, and we can give you further information on that. Again, our hotline number is 213-808-8858. The next question will be, if a property went REO status and the property was changed, does it need to be re-registered again that year? What we need you to do is to come, let's say, and I think if I understand this question to be correct, Danielle, is that what you're saying is mid-year it changes REO status. Do you need to re-register it? What you need to do is come in and let us know change information that's required to be done within 10 days of the change. You've got to come in and tell us that there's been a new change. It is now REO property. So that's what you need to do, is come in and record that. Now, that means that there's a new person involved in the property, which often I know that does happen, then you go in and you can place in there that you're no longer responsible, here's a new servicer. So that's how you can handle that issue as well.
Also, if it goes REO and you're not the person that registered the property originally when it was at NOD stage, and now as a REO property, you are now responsible with managing this property, you can go in the system and register the property as an additional registrant. You will not be required to pay the $155 registration fee because it's already covered for the calendar year. However, the $356 proactive inspection fee might apply. But you do have the option of going in there and registering yourself or registering this property, even though someone else already registered as an NOD status.
Okay, the next question. Just to reconfirm, all properties, whether vacant or occupied, must be registered. All properties must be inspected and reported monthly through the website. Okay, so let's take the first question. This is not a vacancy or occupied ordinance. There are some ordinances that are vacancy ordinances. This is a foreclosure registry ordinance. So irregardless of the vacancy or irregardless of the occupancy status, vacancy or occupied, you're required to register. And so the second question says, all properties must be inspected and reported monthly through the website. That is correct. Yes, all properties who are subject to the ordinance and continue to be subject to the ordinance must come in and do a monthly inspection and report that online. Okay, to elaborate on the last question, if an REO registry was filed December 31st, will a new renewal need to be filed January 1?
Yes.
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 The answer to that is yes. Okay.
Next one. Click on the next one.
Okay, so here's another question. It may be all in the same. I'm not sure. Sorry to clarify. Okay. The property was registered for NOD in 2016 and went REO in 2017, and the 356 was paid. Do I need to also re-register for the 155 again in 2017? Yes. So you need to registration is annual. So there's a 155 annual registration. The 356 is a one-time fee. One-time fee at time of REO, and that's it. Also, is there a renewal button? No, there is no renewal button. You have to go in and re-register them. However, I do believe that your list will come up at the beginning of the year of those properties that you've registered.
Yeah, so if you registered a property and any lender contact information that you have listed in the past in any of your registered properties, in addition to the property management company, it will recognize it. So instead of you having to input all the information, all the contact information, there is a pull-down menu that will allow you to select a previously used lender or property management company. And once you select it, it'll populate all your fields so that you won't have to retype them all. But only in the event that all the contact information still remains the same and does apply to the registration. So no, there isn't a renew button. You will have to register the property every year as a new registration.
Okay, the next question is, what date do we need to begin to submit 2018 renewals? You can start renewing them January 1st, 2018. Our system will not allow you to register prior to that date. So we ask that you register them on January 1st, 2018, and we give you the entire month of January through January 31st to make that renewal registration. Okay. Are there any other questions? Anybody want to raise your hand and ask a question? Do we have any hands up? It does not look like we have any hands up, and I do believe we answered all the questions here today. Oh, wait, there's a hand. Let's see, who is this? Okay, we're going to unmute Alicia. Yes. Alicia, are you here? Okay. Okay, Alicia, what is your
my question is, with the inspections, so say a property is registered as of today. We order our inspection to be uploaded for this month, but our vendor does not get us the inspection results back until, say, December 5th. We are then not able to upload a November inspection in the month of December.
Yes, you're allowed to go back 30 days from that date.
Okay, 30 days from the registration date?
No, 30 days from the date that you're going into the system and submitting the inspection.
Okay, so say on a go forward, like this property's already been registered, it's been registered for a while, and our inspector doesn't get us the results within that same month that it should be uploaded, it's uploaded the next month. The system doesn't allow the next month's inspection to be uploaded for the prior month. Or is there some sort of workaround? Because right now, we specifically have our properties for your ordinance specifically set out separately, because our inspection orders aren't like coming in timely enough to be uploaded into your system without being out of compliance or not being able to be uploaded.
So if you get the inspection results past the 30 days, going back, it won't allow you to go back prior to 30 days.
Right. I don't even think it is 30 days. So like my example is for October, we have inspections where the inspections weren't, we have like 2 or 3 say that didn't come back for October. The system doesn't allow us to upload an October inspection in November.
Yes, it does.
It should, okay. Because I don't know if maybe it's something I'm doing wrong or it's saying that I can't.
So if you go in there and you're putting in the inspection date,
Yes.
it can't be past the 30 days. Like say the inspection date is October 5th, and you're going now into the system, it's November 10th. It won't let you go back to report it for the 5th of October.
Right.
But it will let you go all the way through November 5th. So we have a 30-day requirement on that. So if you go in and if it's October 5th, for example, you have until November 5th to go in and upload it. It's a 30-day period. Are you saying it's taking you longer than 30 days to administratively get that collected and input it?
Not normally. Sometimes it does take that long for the vendor to get the result back to us, though. Not on our end.
The person who does the inspection doesn't get it to them on time. That's my complaint to me too.
Oh, okay. So your inspectors are, okay, now, I don't know what you're requiring for inspection, but as I stated before, that slide that we had with all the questions, the 8 questions, that just say, here's your name, your phone number, the date of inspection, and here's the questions, and then upload the photos, that can be all done at site.
Right, but
our vendor, on purpose. We actually paid some money to get that done so that it would be easier for you all and your inspectors to report that.
Right, but our inspectors aren't doing the upload. We are doing it ourselves.
Well, that is the reason why we put in that feature where you can designate an inspector and then they create their own account. Now, they're not registering properties or they're not managing anything. All they're doing is going in there and filling out that form and submitting the picture. So that's, we did that to assist you because we are aware that there's these type of issues where you're not getting these reports on time and our system's only set up to allow you to go back a certain amount of days. So we encourage you to use this and designate an inspector to, that way you won't be late on your monthly inspections and you will not accrue that $250 per day penalty fee.
Alicia, why don't we do this? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, now that I know that you have that option, it might be something we look into doing.
Yeah, and if you need assistance, we can walk you through it. So just go ahead and give us a call at our hotline, and we can assist you along with whoever you designate as your inspector to create this account.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Also, another thing that I wanted to point out, and to everyone that's online, when you go in there to submit an inspection, and say, for instance, now it's October, you're reporting for September, make sure that on the left-hand side there is a calendar that you select the month that you're reporting for. Because oftentimes you come in, we've gotten calls where you come in, you submit an inspection and say, oh, I submitted for the last month, but now it's appearing in this current month. It's because you did not designate the month that you were reporting for. I just wanted to stress that out.
And I do want to impress that we've been quite lenient on the monthly inspections. We're not saying it has to be done on the 1st of the month. We're not saying it has to be done always on the 15th of the month if you start on the 15th of the month. We're just saying there needs to be an inspection in that month. In that month, there needs to be an inspection that we can go through and audit and verify and comply and make sure that it's in compliance. So we're trying to be as lenient as we can within the terms of the ordinance, because our goal is to get you out to that property, to see that property, to identify nuisance conditions, and to remedy them before they get to our level. And so that's really the goal here, is to make sure that these properties remain free from blight conditions like the ones we just showed you. Okay, I think that we've answered everyone's questions here. I want to thank everyone for attending today. I hope this was a good conversation. We will be posting this on our website, so it can be viewed by your staff or new hires if they come in. Always remember that we are available. Oh, somebody has a quick question. Can we unmute her? Okay, Lorenza? We can't unmute you. Can you put the question in? Apparently your computer doesn't have a process. So we're gonna wait one. Do you have a question? Okay, here we go. Her question was, we manage a great deal of LA properties. And I'm waiting for the question, Lorenza. Oh, Lorenza, can we unmute you now? Are you there?
No, she's
Unmuted you and it doesn't work. What is the fastest way to inspect and register them? Okay, what is the fastest way to inspect and register properties? Well, I don't know what the fastest way to register them. It would be, you know, as soon as you get that recording of that NOD, there needs to be some coordination, and I would think that I speak to a lot of attorneys who are the foreclosing trustees that go forward and do all the foreclosure work, and as soon as they record that NOD, somebody needs to connect that NOD with the person who's going to be doing that registration, because it's 30 days from that date that we would like for you to register that property. The best way to inspect a property and report that is to do it online. And if you give your inspectors the authority to do that on their own, then that's the quickest way to get that inspection in on time to us. Now, the other question is, what is,
That's it.
is that it?
Yes, what is the fastest way to inspect a large number of REO properties?
Yeah, a large number of REO properties. You know, I can tell you, Benny, the way Benny does it is to put them by council district, an area district, and you know, if you're going out in that same area, you're inspecting all of those in that same area. So that might be a good way to do that, is to put them, you know, on your geomapping process, or whatever you use to inspect those properties, and do them by areas. And the best way that we found is through council district areas, the neighborhoods that I spoke to you about earlier. That's probably the best way to go out there and inspect those properties. I know that's one thing that I do believe that Benny uses. Any other tips, Benny?
No, just go ahead and I use Google Maps, and you can put up to 10 properties, and then you can kind of route them out in a certain area, and then just plug away, because we're here we're citywide, so we go from CD1 to CD15 to the valley, everywhere. So just try to make the best of your time, and just you know, drive by the properties and take a picture, and then submit your inspections. You can do everything online, so it'll be quick and easy.
And you can do it on your phone. So that's actually a really good option. You can do it on your phone. You can take the picture on your phone, or a iPad or tablet or something like that. And so it's all doable online. Okay. One more question. Okay, so I understand, Lorenza. Why don't you contact us at our number, 213-808-8858, and we'll see if we can help you out in doing something like this. And again, anybody who's out there that has questions or wants to make suggestions to us on, you know, processes, or work in collaboration with you to make certain that, you know, our properties remain free from blighted conditions, that is the goal here within this ordinance. And so whatever it is that we can do to help you, we're here. Please contact us at our hotline. I thank everyone for attending, and again, this will be placed on our internet. Thank you all, and happy holidays, since we won't see you. Thank you.